yes, I have already used this bag, as you can see from the twilly and the charm. So maybe it's not really a true unboxing per se. It's more of a reveal. Not really sure. People don't really do reveals much. So I was looking for this item for about a year, and I was super obsessed to the point I was searching every single day, even multiple times a day, on Google for this bag to see if anyone was selling it. And I was pining for one. I was like literally the thirstiest female I felt like on earth because I wanted this bag so bad. My boyfriend would probably be offended knowing that I was probably more thirsty about that bag than him. To me, this was a holy grail, as they would call it, because it's white. To me, white is a beautiful blank canvas for other colors to pop. For me, color schemes vary from either pastels or neutrals, and this color goes great with pastels because it's a bright and light color, and it goes well with neutrals because white is a neutral itself, and then therefore lends well to being mixed with other neutrals. The feet were the biggest important factor. I was considering a classic flap, but that has a caveat of there's no feet, and so the corners can get worn, and I know that because I have a classic flap in gray and I wear it a ton, and there's already starting to be a little bit of wear around the corners, and I would like to avoid that as much as possible, and any staining that would easily show up with white because white is a lighter color. So I considered this design. I already checked out a bunch of other similar designs to the Kelly, and it only made me more convinced that I wanted the Kelly, unfortunately. I checked out Carolina Herrera, who has a similar Kelly bag, Salvatore Ferragamo, who has this Kelly similar looking bag. The British brand that Sophie Chohet mentions, they make a similar looking Kelly. Valentino makes a very cute Kelly, which I actually bought and then returned because the handle wasn't right for me, but the size was perfect. Valextra has an Acide bag that is very cute as well, but I also turned that down. The handle was a big factor for me. A lot of these brands make handles that just do not match up to the par of Hermes handles. Oh, and the YSL Cassandra and Strathberry bag is also a similar contender to the Kelly in design, but none of these quite fit what I wanted, and I want what I want. I'm a very particular and picky person, and it is kind of a curse more than it is a gift. But I can tell you that no one does handles like Hermes does, because if you look at these similar knockoff designs from other brands that are Kelly inspired, they do a handle, but the handles are a thin strip of leather much of the time, and that thin strip of leather was just not as comfortable and like sturdy like the Hermes ones are, because it's a tubular leather handle that they do. Also, the one thing that I didn't like about the Valentino bag, even though I really loved it to bits, was the fact that the bottom was very mushy versus with Hermes, solid. So I just felt like whenever I picked up that bag, felt like my contents were gonna like fall out because the bottom didn't have like a hard piece or plate at the bottom to keep it from mushing, and it was just would cave in, seemed like. I questioned myself if I was a label hoe multiple times because I refused to get anything else besides this Hermes Kelly. I know it's an iconic bag, but do I really need Hermes? Can't I get by with something else that's similar enough? And maybe it's not the fact that I'm a label hoe, but it's more the fact that I'm very picky. So that's one of the reasons. I also was very particular about the color, and I really wanted Cray specifically over Nata because Nata has a slight yellow undertone, which I wasn't too much a fan of. And more so in particular, I wanted Cray over Nata because the edge glazing was a very dark brown, almost a black, versus the Cray, it's like a lighter brown, which I enjoy lightness and brightness and everything in my life. So that's where I ended. I was searching for a long time because even though I could have bought it outright at over 3 times retail price, I did not want to give in. I wanted it slightly below market rate of 3 times retail, so I won't reveal the price, but I'll just say that I got it for below the market rate of what it's normally selling for right now. And I was lucky enough to find a seller who was selling items for below market value. Not to the point where it's like fake prices, but it was to the point where it's still below market value but not at market value, if that makes sense. And I posted it as an ISO on the Hermes group, and I almost got scammed twice because of that slightly below market value. One of the scammers tried to impersonate another person. It was a he, and he was trying to impersonate a she, and I reached out to that account that he sent me a screenshot of, and she responded and said, LOL, girl, this is not me. So please be careful. And I almost bought into a bag too that was shipped overseas and they wanted wire and they couldn't do PayPal, even though they tried to do PayPal and they made me wait for 3 weeks. Their PayPal didn't work, so I had to unfortunately walk away because I just couldn't trust them. And I was lucky to be talking to people who were logical around me and convinced me of the right decision, what was logical, because sometimes you get into your own head and you're so tempted you just can't think straight. It's really been a reminder. So do not give in. It will come around. I wanted specifically K25 Cellier and gold hardware in the color Cray, and I wasn't specific about the leather because I knew it's probably always going to be Epsom no matter what, unless it was a special order, but I'm not gonna probably come across that very often. And the whole way that we went about getting this item was actually in the US, and I actually did pay cash because PayPal and other means of paying digitally just seem to fail me. My credit card has a very low limit. I've been saving up a lot of money, so I had the money, but I didn't have the room on the credit card, and it's easier said than done to pay for everything on a credit card, but not when something is so astronomically big. So I mean, it was a pain to get this, and I don't think I'll ever get another one because of how much of a pain it was to get it, unless it was just offered to me in a store and I could pay cash or something. Every single person I dealt with except the person who sold me this bag was an international seller, so I had to work with PayPal, and PayPal charges you an extra 3% fee if you want to go for the business invoice. And luckily we did cash with the seller, and the seller was a reputable seller, and she also paid for half of the Baba Baby authentication and I paid for the other half, and she also printed it out when we met, which was super nice to see that in person. But my boyfriend and I actually flew out to Pennsylvania or Rhode Island? I think it was Rhode Island. And then we drove down to New York City in Manhattan to pick up this bag and then drive back. He had a work trip, so I just tagged along and he used some of his points to get me a ticket. I was so happy to get this bag because it was around my birthday. It was a day or two before my birthday, and so I basically considered it a birthday gift. And then the day after that I also picked up my car that I recently bought, so I was really happy, and it was like the first time I'd ever gotten like a birthday gift for myself that nice. It was just kismet. I was very nervous purchasing this because the bank would not let me withdraw such a huge amount of money. They kept thinking that it was a scam, and I tried on 3 separate occasions. I called their customer service. Didn't do anything. And this was a week and a half before meeting up to give her the money. The day before, I eventually ended up withdrawing cash, putting it in my K28, and then flying with that amount of cash all the way to New York, and the entire time being so scared I was gonna get mugged. And then I just handed her the cash in person. My boyfriend was with me the entire time, which helped, but it was such an ordeal, and doing all of that it's not worth it to me doing another bag with that same whole process. And if I ever do think of doing that ever again, someone slap me in the face, please, because it was more trouble than it was worth. I used it actually a lot since I got it, but I've recently been slowing down on usage because the Epsom on the top got scratched and started peeling back, so I'm kind of scared to use it. So I've been using it only for special events and special occasions and outings, and I've been using more of like my Kate Spade and beat up bags for errands and stuff like that. And I find it is actually just kind of nice not having to worry about every single person who walks by me might bump into it. If you're enjoying this video, please give this video a like so that I can spread to more people, and subscribe so you won't want to miss what's going on. Likes are free, so why not give this video a like? You'll want to subscribe because you won't want to miss the things we do on this channel related to fashion history, and couture. And if you guys help me reach my milestone of 1,000 subs, I will let you all pick the next fashion related topic for this channel. If you'd like to support me even further, I have a Patreon link in the description where you can buy me a coffee. To be honest, I'm pretty happy that I got it, but I actually still like my gray classic flap more than this bag. I thought of it as more than a bag, and I put it on too much of a pedestal, and now that I have it, it's like, oh, it's just a bag. I'm so silly. And that's all it is at the end of the day, is a bag, so if you think it's anything more than that, don't. Because it really isn't. Some advice that you can actually take with a grain of salt is to, if you have a budget, stick to it, no matter how tempted you may be to give in to these prices. Ain't nobody gonna tell you to buy something if you don't like the price. You can hold out until you get one that works for you. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about like super low prices to the point where fake items are going to be priced at, but if it's something like slightly below market value you're looking for, then you can hold out and you can get lucky if you keep an eye out. And if you're doing an international payment where you can't get to touch and see the bag in person or hand over the cash in person, I would always trust PayPal, but I understand that PayPal comes with a lot of fees to it, and if you are comfortable doing wire, then you do you, but personally, I do not trust anyone, including if they're a reputable seller. Make sure you can check the bag in person for signs of authenticity if you are buying in cash, because even though Baba Baby might authenticate it, I was worried that it was actually going to be a fake bag anyways. So I actually looked for unique signs of the bag being this specific bag and then compared it to the real item. If you enjoyed this video, give this video a like, because likes are free, and help this channel get to 1,000 subscribers. Because if we get to 1,000 subscribers, you will get to pick what video we're going to be making next. And if you'd like to support this channel even further, please feel free to buy me a coffee on my Patreon, which is linked below in the description. It takes a lot of time and effort to make these videos, and if you appreciate it, then feel free to buy me a coffee. And then until next time!